She was the kind of person you would never notice in a crowd. That was exactly how she liked it. In the noisy, chaotic world of Northwood High, she moved through the hallways like a ghost, her head down, her shoulders slightly hunched, as if she was trying to take up as little space as possible. Her name was Maya, and to everyone who saw her every day, she was completely and utterly unremarkable. Her mornings all looked the same. The alarm clock would scream at her from the bedside table, and she would reach over with a groan to slap it silent. Her bedroom was small but tidy, the walls a plain, faded color that had probably been chosen by whoever lived there before her family moved in. There were no posters of boy bands or movie stars on the walls. No pictures of her with a big group of friends at the mall or the beach. Just a bed, a desk piled with textbooks, and a duffel bag sitting in the corner of her closet, hidden behind some old winter coats. She never looked at that bag in the morning. She didn't let herself think about what it meant. Getting ready for school was a quiet routine. She would pull her long dark hair back into a simple ponytail, not bothering with fancy braids or curls. She wore clothes that were designed to be invisible, plain jeans, a comfortable sweatshirt, sneakers that were practical but not stylish. She never wore bright colors. She never wore anything that might make someone look at her twice. Her mom was usually already gone for work by the time she came into the kitchen, so she would pour herself a bowl of cereal, eat it standing up while staring out the window at the gray morning sky, and then grab her backpack and head out the door. The walk to school was her first test of the day. It was a gauntlet of social landmines. Groups of kids clustered on corners, laughing too loudly, showing off for each other. The popular kids, the athletes, the artists, they all had their territories. Maya had learned long ago that the safest place to be was in the middle of the sidewalk, walking fast, eyes forward, offering no opening for anyone to call out to her. A simple hey could lead to a conversation, and conversations could lead to questions. Questions were dangerous. School itself was a performance of invisibility. She would slip into her first period class, English literature, and take her usual seat in the back corner, right next to the window. From here, she could look out at the parking lot or the empty football field. It was easier than looking at the other students. When the teacher, a man with a kind face and tired eyes, would start a discussion about the book they were reading, Maya would stare intently at the pages. She knew the answers. She read the books. She understood the themes. But raising her hand meant drawing the attention of 30 other people. It meant hearing their whispers later. Asterisk, who does she think she is? So she stayed quiet. She became an expert at looking busy. She would doodle small, intricate patterns in the margin of her notebook, geometric shapes, spirals, knots, anything to keep her hands moving, and her face hidden in the hallways between classes. The world was a torrent of noise and shoving. Students bumped into her without apologizing. Conversations about weekend parties and who was dating who washed over her like water. She was a rock in a river, immovable and ignored. Once, a girl from her math class, a friendly girl with braces and a bright smile, tried to talk to her. "Hey, you're in my algebra class, right? I'm trying to figure out this problem." She had pointed to her worksheet. Maya had felt a cold spike of panic in her chest. She had mumbled a quick, "Sorry, I gotta get to class," and hurried away, leaving the girl looking confused and a little hurt. It wasn't that Maya was mean. She just couldn't afford to let anyone in. Getting close to someone meant they might eventually want to know about her life. And her life was a secret she guarded with everything she had. Lunch was the hardest part. The cafeteria was a roaring ocean of sound and smell. Maya would grab a simple sandwich and a carton of milk and find a small, two-person table near the back, close to the doors that led out to a quiet courtyard. She would eat quickly, her eyes on her food, pretending to be fascinated by her sandwich. She would watch the other tables from the corner of her eye. The way the jocks slapped each other on the back. The way the girls in their friend group all laughed at the same time, their heads tilted at the same angle. She saw the loneliness in the eyes of other kids sitting by themselves, but she never approached them. Misery might love company, but company was a risk. Her teachers had her pegged too. Maya, quiet girl, does her work. Never any trouble, they would say in the staff room. She was the kind of student they appreciated because she never added to their stress. No behavior issues, no forgotten homework, no dramatic outbursts. She was a name on an attendance sheet, a row of good grades in their grade book. They had no idea who she was. They never asked. The final bell of the day was a release, but also a countdown. As the other students flooded out of the building, laughing and shouting about their plans, Maya's pace would quicken. She didn't go to the parking lot, where parents waited in minivans, or towards the bus stop, where kids traded stories. She walked, fast and alone, towards the city bus stop on the corner. She would catch the number 42 bus, the one that went away from the nice suburban neighborhoods with their green lawns and into the older, more industrial part of town. On the bus, the change would begin. It was subtle at first. As the neat houses and strip malls gave way to auto body shops and warehouses, her shoulders would start to relax. Her head would come up a little. She would watch the unfamiliar streets pass by, and a different kind of light would enter her eyes. Not the dull, careful glaze she wore at school, but something sharper, more focused. The further the bus traveled from Northwood High, the more the invisible girl began to fade, and someone else began to emerge. She would get off at a stop that had no bench. Just a worn path in the dirt next to a chain-link fence. From there, she would walk 2 blocks past a shuttered factory and a lot full of old construction equipment. The sounds of the city-distant traffic, the hum of power lines, a dog barking somewhere, were the only soundtrack. Finally, she would reach her destination. A low, windowless building with a faded sign above the door that simply read, "The Academy." It looked like nothing from the outside. But for Maya, pushing open that heavy metal door was like stepping into another world. The first thing that always hit her was the smell. Sweat, cleaning solution, and the faint metallic tang of blood from a busted lip earlier in the day. The second thing was the sound. The rhythmic thud of fists hitting heavy bags, the squeak of shoes on the mat, the sharp, explosive breaths of people pushing their bodies to the absolute limit. This was a different kind of school. Here, the quiet girl from the back of the class was known by a different name. Here, they just called her May. As she walked in, a massive man with tattooed arms and a shaved head, who was wrapping his hands, just nodded at her. She nodded back. There was no small talk needed. An older woman, lean and strong with gray streaks in her dark hair, was showing a new kid a basic stance. She glanced up and gave Maya a quick, approving look. That look was worth more to Maya than any grade on a report card. Maya walked to the locker room and changed. The jeans and sweatshirt were folded and put away. She pulled on her gear, the loose, comfortable shorts, the well-worn tank top, and then the most important part, her hand wraps. She unwound the long strip of cloth and began the ritual. Around the wrist, over the knuckles, between the fingers. It was a meditation. Each pull of the cloth was a tightening of focus. With each wrap, the anxieties of the school day, the whispers, the isolation, the feeling of being invisible, were locked away. By the time she was done and had pulled on her sparring gloves, she was transformed. The slump was gone from her shoulders. Her eyes were clear and steady. She walked back onto the main floor and found an empty, heavy bag. She started slowly, just bouncing on the balls of her feet, getting a feel for the floor. Then she threw her first punch. A sharp, clean jab. then another. A cross. A hook. Her body moved with a grace and power that seemed impossible for the quiet girl from the school hallway. Each punch was precise, deliberate. It wasn't about anger. It was about control. In a world where she felt she had no control over how people saw her, over her own loneliness, this was where she found it. Here, she was not invisible. She was seen, respected, and powerful. And as she moved and struck, the sweat beading on her forehead, a small, private smile touched her lips for the first time all day. She was home.